Thank you very much, fellow Africans, and welcome to today's episode of the Change for African campaign. And so, fellow Africans, it's on a Tuesday, and on a Tuesday, it's all about the potential that we have as an African continent. That is our pillar number 2 of the Change for African campaign. This being our episode number 77 of the Change for African campaign. And so, fellow Africans, I am glad to present to you our today's episode this afternoon. And today, about our second pillar of the Change for African campaign. As usual, we have to relate it with something so that we can be able to exemplify it broadly for people to be able to understand what we mean by Africa's potential. Indeed, we have a great potential. By all look of things, we are potentially stable, but then the potential is yet to be unleashed. As a fellow Africans, allow me to relate our today's episode and our today's pillar of the Change for African campaign with the United Nations Sustainable Goal number 9. Goal number 9, but target number 9.2. Goal number 9 is all about industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Remember, there's a time we have spoken about industry, innovation, and infrastructure. We have, sometimes back we have spoken about that. But then, after finishing all the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals directly, now we had to look at what makes these goals. What makes these goals are its key targets, and they have several targets. So today, goal number 9, we are tackling its target number 9.2, all about promoting inclusive industrialization and raise the share of the industry in employment and GDP, including the LDCs, the least developed countries. And when we speak about the LDCs, the least developed countries in the world, Africa has a very fair share when it comes to that. I can boldly say that, least developed countries. And so, speaking this in the African context, because I've said this because Africa now, when it comes to LDCs, Africa, as I've said, we have a bigger share to that. So we need to see what is supposed to be done in Africa so that our potential when it comes to matters of industrialization. Remember, we are a very able continent when it comes to industrialization, but then it is only that our potential is yet to be made real. Our potential is yet to be unleashed as a continent. That is why Africa remains to be the way it is. As a fellow Africans, speaking about industrialization and promoting inclusive industrialization and raising the share of the industry in employment and its GDP. Remember, the GDP of Africa, in many terms, it's a very little thing compared to even some of the very huge countries in the world. We have a country that its GDP is greater than that of Africa. That is only one country, but Africa is composed of so many countries, and you wonder why. And the iron part of it is that Africa has very many resources, and these resources are resources that are actually requisite conditions or materials needed to be used in various industries in Africa, because we have so many resources. So these resources can be used to be part of the raw materials to be used in these industries. Now speaking about industrialization, and then once we have these resources as raw material, it means now our industry should be running using our own resources. Now we are also able to do manufacturing, because the industrial part of Africa is yet to be well developed, because most of the raw materials that are needed to develop the African industry is actually exported raw to other countries. That one cripples the African pace when it comes to the industrialization part of it, because these are raw materials needed to actually carry out industrial operations, but then they're exported when they are raw to other countries. So it becomes a problem whereby we're not able to industrialize fully. And so then, and also we have the inclusivity part of it, that once Africa is also, because since we are still to be that well developed, especially in terms of industrialization and manufacturing or just diverse things, we need to make sure that now, as we look forward to going into that step of industrialization, Africa is in a state whereby each age group is able to be included when it comes to the matters of transforming Africa through industrialization. And remember, you cannot do any industrialization when you are not able to tap into your energy sources, the renewable energy sources, because that is where we are going. We want to do away with what we call the non-renewable energy sources, because the ramifications or the implications of that, if I may use that. Now our industries need to be fueled or need to be energized through the renewable energy sources, because this will not contribute to global warming. And also, Remember, we have so many sources of energy. Africa, we have we have substantial amount of energy needed to run our industries. We need to make sure we invest also in such areas, so that even when you speak about industrialization, you cannot industrialize without energy. So speaking about industrialization, we also need to make sure we invest in the resource of energy. We have so many resources or sources of renewable energy. We have the solar energy, we have the hydro energy, we have geothermal energy, if I say, we have the wind energy. All these are sources of energy that are able to industrialize Africa at a very high pace. The other thing about this is also, speaking about the youth, of course, the inclusivity part of it. Youth also need to be included so boldly when it comes to reviving Africa, because Africa is a land whereby the majority of the Africa's population is in the age, or the majority of the Africa's population are the young people. Over 60% of its population actually the young people. And then also make sure that once we industrialize, it does not interfere with the environment. Meaning, this needs to be what it needs to be, to make sure that what we are doing, it is in a way that would not interfere with our climate, so meaning we still need to make sure that when it comes to the matters of energy as part of our industrialization process, or going to the industrialization of Africa, then energy is renewable energy that do not interfere with our climate and all those sort of things. So fellow Africans, allow me to edit at that point, speaking about the promotion of an inclusive industrialization and raise the share of industry to employment and GDP, because these industries will be able to employ so many Africans. Remember, there's a problem of unemployment in Africa. So once we are able to industrialize, then Africa is able to have more young people into the job market, so that they can be able to be self-dependent Africans. So fellow Africans, allow me to edit at that point, and most probably, of course, that I'll meet tomorrow, God willing, as we discuss about our third pillar of the Change for African campaign, all about the African resources. We have immense of them, so let's meet them as we discuss that. Thank you, and have a great evening, afternoon, morning, whatever it is.